So welcome to 7.1, which is projective geometry. Projective geometry. Okay, so we're going to consider a picture. So let's say I want to give some perspective. So let's say I have a line of buildings, like so. Don't know, let's see. Like so. See, I've got some buildings here. Let's try and do the same thing on the other side. Let's see. Growl, that is my stomach that you are hearing. Okay. Let's see, like so. Like that. Does that look about the same? I don't know, something like so. So we've got these buildings here. Pardon me. Oops. Okay, it's the same thing over here. Grill. Okay, got a building here. Okay, so let's say we have some archways. Let's see. Like so. The same thing over here. Okay, maybe. So if I'm trying to show perspective when I'm drawing, let's say maybe that there's some wooden beams across the top. Maybe they go out a bit. So what am I doing here? The whole point of this is to show you that in order to create perspective as I'm drawing, things become smaller in the background and more pronounced in the foreground, right? And this should give us, well, if I could draw, a sense of perspective, right? So things are getting smaller as we go farther into the distance. Okay? Do the same thing over here. It's kind of a Zen, nice type of exercise. Calming, taking our time, except for my stomach. It's going crazy. But yes, we can take our time drawing here. Oops, well, no. Well, that is completely wrong because it's not horizontal. Let me make that a bit more horizontal. Let's see. more in line with the edge there. Okay, same thing going back here. Okay, and let's say we have some cacti. Some saguaro, something like that. Not drawn very well. Maybe another one down here. Actually, maybe in a little bit darker of a color because he's farther back. Okay. Another one up here. Once again, another one here. A bit smaller because he's farther in the background. And we've got our road. A gravel road here. Well, this gravel road will become thinner and thinner as we go off into the distance, right? As we're looking into the distance, it's becoming smaller and smaller. And let's say, since this is the Old West, let's say we have a sun in the background. Setting sun in the background. Something like so on the horizon, right? Okay, so this is perspective. So the Euclidean / normal geometry. Euclidean / normal geometry. Of these buildings. Of these buildings. Is skewed, right? We're not drawing boxes here, we're making them a bit skewed. So is skewed to show three-dimensional perspective. So is skewed to show three-dimensional perspective, or 3D, right? Three-dimensional. Perspective on a flat surface, right? Perspective on a flat surface, that is in the plane. So on a flat surface. That is in the plane. Okay, so definition. Let's see. I'll move that over a bit. Definition. So the point in projective geometry. So the point in projective geometry. Geometry. At which all lines converge. At which all lines converge. Is termed the vanishing point. The vanishing point. So notice that these lines, all of the lines in this image, are converging on a single point, and that's termed the vanishing point. Where does the image vanish? Okay, so let's note. So if we create fixed distances, so if we create fixed distances on a horizontal axis, and a vanishing point above it at A, and a vanishing point above it at A, what do we get? So what I'd like to do is I'd like to have a horizontal axis. Let's say we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 is good. Say we've got 9 points on a horizontal axis. So these are evenly spaced points, and what I want to do is I want to put a point A above it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's say right here, this is my point A. Now what I'm going to do, actually let me move this down a bit. Move this point down here, and I'm going to move this line down a bit, a couple points like there. Okay, so what I want to do is number 1. Actually, let me do number 1 in dark green. So number 1, connect all the points on the horizontal to A. So that's my first step, connect all the points on the horizontal axis to A. To point A, and A was in purple. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to do that in maybe this color gray. So I'm going to take this point to A, second point to A, third point to A, fourth point to A, fifth point to A, sixth point to A, seventh point to A, eighth point to A, ninth point to A. Okay. So step 2 is to draw a parallel to the base intersecting one side. So let's draw a parallel. Draw a parallel line to the base, intersecting one side, at, let's call it B, and the other side at B prime. Wow, other side at B prime. Okay, so what do I mean? I'm going to draw a parallel line. Guess we can do it in blue. So let's draw the parallel line here, make our lives easy. And it's going to intersect one side at B and another side at B prime. Okay, so now next step. So B and B prime, number 3, B and B prime, B prime. Force all the diagonals on either side. So force all the diagonals. Diagonals from the base, from the bottom to either side. Okay, so what do we mean by that? That means that if I can draw from B to the first base point, from B to the second base point. Do I want to do it that way? Actually, yeah, I'm going to draw from B to the base and then to B prime. Then notice I can draw from the base through this point, this diagonal, and could go to B prime, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the next point, which is right next there, right there. Actually, no, I don't want to do that one. That one's too miserable. Okay, let's see. How am I going to make this easier? So let's do just the ones going up first. I think that'll make it a little easier to do. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to go through this point to arrive here at the side. Now let's go from the base, go through that next intersection and arrive at the side. So I've gone through this intersection, I arrive at the side. Do the same thing from this next point. So I'm trying to go through this intersection. I don't think I did that well. Let's see if I can draw a better line. Through that intersection. Maybe. Okay, good enough. So through this intersection, arrive at the side. Through the next baseline. Once again, I'll go through the next intersection, hopefully. The intersection here, arrive at the side. Go from the next base point through that next intersection. Arrive at the side. Go through this next base point through his intersection. Intersect here, arrive at the side. And finally, this base point. Okay, this base point. Arrive here at the side. Okay, and doing that same thing in the opposite direction, maybe with this color green, maybe with, what color should I use? Let's do the same thing. So I'm going to start now from this side. And now I'm going to go through this point from the next. And hopefully arrive at the side. Yeah, okay. Now the next base point through the intersection. Arrive at the side. The next base point through the intersection. Arrive at the side. Through the intersection points. The next base point through the intersecting point. Arrive at the side. Here's the intersecting point. Here's the side. The next base point through the intersection. Hopefully I can get this. Arrive at the side. This next base point through the intersection. Arrive at the side. And finally, the very last through the intersection. So through the intersection, arrive at the side. Okay, good. Okay, so next, what do we do next? So the final is to connect all the parallel lines to the base. So connect each set of corresponding points, to create parallel lines to the base. So what this means is let's take the next point up, the two next points up, connect those. We've got a parallel line. Let's take the two new next points up, etc. So we keep on taking a set of 2 points that correspond, and we connect them. And hopefully what we get then is a set of parallel lines to the base. Something like so. Okay, so this is the visual pyramid. So what color should I use? This is the visual pyramid. This is the visual pyramid. Used as a template over which perspective may be drawn. Perspective may be drawn. Okay, so this is called the visual pyramid. So the visual pyramid. Okay, so for example, let's use the visual pyramid to make a picture. So for example, create a picture or create an image with perspective. With perspective. Using a visual pyramid both above and beneath the vanishing point. Both above and beneath the vanishing point A. Okay, so I'm going to do this entirely in gray. So let's see what I'd like to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, let's see, I'll copy and paste these. Copy, paste. Something like that. Actually, I might move this down a bit. Oops. Oh, that's way too far. Let's see, maybe like so. Hopefully that's good enough. And what's interesting is if I just connect them, there will be a vanishing point, A. I'll show you. So if I connect like so. The vanishing point will appear right in the middle, if I've done this correctly. Oops, well, that's completely incorrect. Okay, so now we have our horizontal, both above and below. And the first step was to draw a horizontal to that. So we'll draw a horizontal to that and intersect the sides. Draw a horizontal to that, intersect the sides. And from those, we can draw our diagonals. We have our first diagonal, second diagonal, third diagonal, fourth diagonal, fifth diagonal. Eek. Sixth. Seventh. Eighth. Okay. I'll do the same thing on the other side. One. Oops. One. Why is that not working? One. Two. Three. Four. Five. Six. Seven. Eight. Okay, and then I can draw my corresponding parallel lines, which looks really messy with all these grids in it, but once I take the grids out, it should look nicer. Okay, let's do the same thing above. So first through the diagonal there, through the diagonal there, through the diagonal there, through the diagonal there. Come on. Through the diagonal there. Come on. Grellius, I know, my stomach. Through the diagonal here. And through the diagonal here. Oops, no. Okay, through the diagonal there. Let's see, okay. Now let's do something on the other side. We have this one. Ugh, terrible. Through the diagonal here. 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 Oh, yes, I know. And through the diagonal here. Okay, I think we've got it. Now we can do our parallel lines. Okay, and what we can do is we can use these now as a grid to draw things. So a good example would be like, trees, because they have length or columns, So here's a tree here with its branches. And I can put another tree back here. Another tree down here. But if I'd put tree at every diagonal, see, they're going to get smaller and smaller as we go back. Okay, so let's do the same thing over here. Got the trunk of a tree here. Another tree here. Another tree maybe here. And we'll put leaves on the trees in a moment. You'll see what I'm going to do with the top. Why do I have that top grid there? And it's as follows. So now let's put in the greenery. So let's say we have, let's do some light greenery. Let's go up to the top of the grid here on both sides. They're kind of like eucalyptus trees, so we got to give them some shade. Okay, continuing on. So now this will reach the top of the grid in the equivalent spot as where he is on the bottom. You can notice how I want my leaves to reach to the top grid here. I guess these look more like Italian cypresses than they do eucalyptus. Okay. Well, these maybe be touched a bit more by sunlight or something. Okay. Coming forward, still reaching up to the top grid. It's kind of nice and therapeutic to draw. Okay, maybe that. Let's use this color, not yellow, but something green at the tops. Okay. Coming forward, we're going to get larger and larger. Hopefully, with respect to the same lines on top as in bottom. Okay. Okay, and finally, the last trees. So So even if you're a terrible artist like myself, you kind of get this sense of perspective regardless. And it looks a bit nicer, right? So it kind of looks like you know what you're doing, even though I don't, right? Just kind of making flames that look like trees. Okay, but we get this definite sense, if I didn't have that grid behind it, of perspective. What I could do is to add into that, if I cared to, you know, some cobblestones and a road in between. You could do anything, just as long as the stones get smaller and smaller as you go backwards. So this is projective geometry, right? We're pretending this is three-dimensional on a flat or two-dimensional surface. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense to everyone. And for the artists in my audience, please excuse my drawings. You probably know more about it than I do. Okay, so this is all that 7.1 is, and I'll see you guys in 7.2.